listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. Today is November 16th, 2021, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host, Jason Lucas. Jason, how are you on this busy Tuesday?
Spencer, hello. Yes, here we are. We're recording this on a bit of a hectic day for us both, I think, personally, but also, we get the show prepped, and then an article comes out in the Wall Street Journal about Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick. That does not paint a very good picture of his history of leadership and the direction that the company is supposed to be headed in currently under his continued leadership. And then also we get a statement from the board of Activision Blizzard reaffirming their belief in his capability to lead them. So it's kind of a bad day. The employees, as we speak, I believe, are staging a walkout. Blizzard employees, at least. The report kind of encompasses a lot of Activision studios and things like that. But yeah, a lot of bad news. Apparently, the board of Activision Blizzard just doesn't care about the monthly PR black eyes that keeping Bobby Kotick employed is, providing them with.
Yeah,
I don't get it. I don't understand what value he adds to the process at this point when he's clearly not committed to the change that is necessary at the company. He's not committed to improving conditions for his workers, and he's not holding up his end of the bargain to his investors. He's not disclosing things that investors should know, and actions that management has taken have directly affected the stock price of the company, which is what the investors are there for. So it's hard for us to contextualize this stuff right now because it's kind of unfolding around us as we record this, but this is just, this is kind of what we're swirling in as we sit down and turn the mics on today. It's, I'm not surprised. I think Kotick should have obviously been ousted a while ago. I can't believe that the board is continuing to publicly, affirm support for him in the face of this continued bad press and investigative reporting. You'd think that they could replace him with basically anybody, and Call of Duty and Candy Crush and World of Warcraft would still make the investors money without these types of, recurring issues. And, optimistically, maybe they would install somebody who would actually improve conditions at the company. That might be asking for too much, but, baby steps.
Well, yeah, it's a struggle. So today's one of those days where, I like when I come in to do a podcast, I like to come in from a good headspace where I don't hide my feelings or try and mask anything, but I at least want to come in with some energy and some positivity because that's what I like to portray. It's what I feel like people want to get out of the shows that I participate in. And today was one of those days where I was talking to you before the show. I came home from work. I was up at 6:30 in the morning to go into work, and I worked till 3 today. And I just told you, I'm like, I need some minutes before we start the show to just decompress. I just need a little bit of time to just get my head into that space. And it's not often that I walk up to do a show where I need to do that. But today was going pretty well, and we'd sort of gotten notes together. We have an announcement that we're excited about. There's a lot of positivity rolling into the show, and then to have the first Wall Street Journal article come out, which recapped everything that we've been covering up to this point. It was a really good job of covering this is what's happened over the span of this investigation, and this is the stories that led into it. And also gave us a peek into why Jennifer O'Neill chose to step down from her leadership role, talking about how the company wasn't going to prioritize, the people the way they needed to be, the way that she felt they should be. And that was one of the reasons why she stepped down. Also mentioning that there was pay inequity between her and her co-leader that wasn't getting resolved and things like that. And so these little pieces of information are helpful to sort of shape that picture a bit. And then obviously, as you mentioned, it painting a pretty ugly picture of Kotick, which we already kind of knew that this was a problem and that he probably needed to go. And we'd seen him make some positive moves with the salary cut and some of the concessions about employees and wage increases that we've talked about. But we knew in general that Bobby wasn't super healthy for this environment, and then for this to sort of emphasize that. And then the critical piece that really put me over the edge, which is what you've mentioned as well, is the response. I don't understand the response. I can't get my head around the idea that the board wants to keep Kotick. I can't get my head around why they would put any faith in him at all. I'm with you. He needs to go. They need to get someone else in that role, and they need to start moving on with some big changes. And I'm fine if those changes need to be laid out over a big period of time. It takes a long time to turn a big ship. Corporations like this are huge. It takes a long time to get them turned to make some change. There are definitely fast changes like the wage increases, things like that they've been doing that you can make reasonably quickly, but to actually get a lot of the change that's necessary for this company, I'm fine with them going, hey, here's our 10-month plan or a 1-year plan for what we want to accomplish, and here's the goals of how we want to accomplish them. But we're not even seeing that, and I think that really comes to the bad leadership with Kotick, and getting him out and getting someone in who can put together something like that is what we want to see. We all want to see. So I'm for that. And as much as I dislike starting a show off like this, as you said, we're kind of swirling in the middle of all of this unfolding. Like, as we speak, there's more articles being posted and more news outlets picking up the story and more things happening. It went from the Wall Street Journal publishing it to now there's 5 other news outlets that have picked this up and written articles about it, and there's more in-depth talks about specifics, and it's still unfolding. So yeah, a little rough start to this week's episode for sure.
I mean, maybe next week or something we contextualize a bit more. We'll get some more concrete information about maybe what a plan is going forward, or maybe some other news will break. I think it's impossible to be optimistic that the changes that the employees want to see are possible under Bobby Kotick's leadership. They do not seem possible. I do not think that what the employees are asking for will happen unless and until he is ousted. And I don't understand why the board is so hesitant to oust him. They have no reason not to at this point. They're not making as much money as they used to be making off of their holdings. And, they can, every time something like this comes out in the press, they can expect to make even less money than what they expect to make. So it's not like Bobby Kotick adds anything to the game development process, right? And, Activision Blizzard's games and franchises will continue to be whatever they are with or without his direct involvement in them, right? He's not like a one-man show or something.
Yeah,
like
not
Bobby
at all.
Kotick is not making your video games. Like, it's not what's happening. So I don't understand. It's really disappointing. I wish the board would at least censure him in some way, do something, have some kind of show of solidarity with the people that actually do make the games and that do make the investors their money.
Well, and the people who you're talking about who make the games and make the investors their money, these are the people who are suffering the most, because these are the people who have to deal with the fires that are being created by the Koticks that are out there, right? Like this is the issue is the friends that we have who work and develop these games at this company and the people around them are all, this is a high week for them. They just had a 9.2 big drop of content. They're all pumped for it. They're full steam ahead. We have Thanksgiving next week, and I know that some of those teams are getting some breaks next week with that vacation, which they're looking forward to. And everything was kind of they felt like they got their legs back under them again a little bit, right? And then something like this comes along, and it's not just when this happens, it doesn't just affect the upper-ups there. It's not just the board who have to respond to this. Everyone below them, it really does trickle down. Gets the legs cut out from underneath of them. They really do feel like, oh, well, we had just sort of started rebuilding and feeling like not only our morals are in a good place, but also that they're, being supported and that their community is starting to appreciate them again, and that they're feeling a little bit of reward for the effort they're putting in. And something like this happens, and like I said, it cuts the legs out from underneath them. They feel terrible. You start, you question, and from my own experience throughout COVID and having a parallel experience, if you will, of not feeling supported by my management making decisions that affect me greatly, and my work coworkers around me as far as health and safety went. There's a lot of health and safety issues. You feel like you're out there on your own, and as much as you appreciate the person working next to you, like anything you do is not going to affect actual change, is what it feels like, right? It feels like you don't have a voice, and that no one's listening, and that everyone kind of sees you as part of the problem from the outside, right? Like you don't want, like, I appreciate, and I just want to say I appreciate the game. I appreciate the devs and the work they put into it. I appreciate the engineers who work on keeping the servers running. I appreciate all of you who help this game that we love happen. I appreciate all of you and everything that you do on the game. And I feel I'm so sympathetic, and I feel terrible that you are going through this corporate garbage that is happening. And that you are not able to get the change that's necessary, and not able to feel like you are supported by your community the way you deserve to be for what you put in effort-wise and work-wise. Like, the people I know work at this company because they love the game, they love their team, they love the environment that they're in. And it's devastating when these things are the decisions of someone, way up there in the chain can dramatically affect the way that you and your little team that you enjoy working with are able to do their work and how they're seen in the community. So it's terrible. I just feel for everybody. It's not fun.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind also, Classic Season of Mastery starts today.
Yeah.
The Hearthstone team did a big announcement for their upcoming expansion today, and all that stuff is going to be buried because of the story about Bobby Kotick. And some of the stuff in the story is from 2006, which predates Activision buying out Vivendi.
Yeah,
like Kotick should have been gone years and years ago. And I don't know. I look forward to the day when that's the headline that we're talking about at the top of the show. Is Kotick's ouster because of all of this, just incompetence and misconduct over the years. It's just, it sucks, man. I don't want to have to talk about this stuff all the time, but how do we not? We have to, because the people that make the stuff that we enjoy are the ones who are affected by this, and this is what. That it's just completely unacceptable. I hope that justice gets served in some small way sooner than later.
Agreed. All right, World of Warcraft. I want to talk a bit about WoW because there's a lot going on with it, and I'm going to lead off with the good news. And the good news is we have an opportunity this week on Friday. We're going to be sitting down to talk with Morgan Day. Morgan Day will be joining us on the show. We'll do a live show. We're going to record it. It'll go out on the feed. And it's going to be fantastic. We're going to have a really good time chatting about 9.2 stuff coming up with it. We have a bunch of questions that we're going to be asking them to try and get some more information out of some of these systems and some of the things that are out there. There's going to be some interesting ones. I put it out there to a bunch of people I know in sort of my area of the game as far as that mythic rating scene, about what their questions might be for Morgan Day and what they might be thinking. And there was a lot of interesting ones. I got a lot of feedback back. A lot of them were ones I paralleled. A lot of them are about raid content and things like the goal and idea behind delaying that first 8 bosses, and whether or not there was something around gearing involved in that, or things like whether or not long fights like this 15-minute Sylvanas encounter, is that something they're looking at continuing to do in the future? And if so, are there things like checkpoints or things like that could be involved? There's a lot of interesting questions that are popping up. But if you have an interesting one, feel free to write into the show, startingzone@gmail.com, and we will, have a peek through them and see if anything actually ties in with our conversation. Obviously, we have a limited amount of time with them, so we can't ask everybody's question or anything like that. But I like getting your feedback. I like getting your ideas about it. And if there's one you really want us to pose to Morgan, then feel free to email in and we'll look at it and see if it ties in with the conversation that we're having.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that a lot of people have some similar questions. I mean, we got a big info dump about 9.2 last week. It showed us glimpses of a lot of stuff we're going to be doing, but obviously that leads to questions about how and why we're doing it and, what the upshot of it all is. So really cool that we get a chance to talk to Morgan again. We haven't had Morgan on the show since the lead up to BFA. I want to say, was it March of 18 or April of 18 from PAX East, from the PAX East floor, when BFA was in alpha or beta stage at that point. So it's been a while, but yeah, it's gonna be a fun chat. I think there's a lot of stuff to be excited about in 9.2. So definitely looking forward to that, and we'll have it out to you as soon as we can.
Yeah. Looks like it was April. It was April of 2018 that we were down in
Okay.
Boston. That was when we were heading in there. Yeah, that was a good time. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, so that was that's the big news, and so we'll be recording that Friday night. And so if you want to tune into that, that'll be 7 p.m. on Friday that we're going to be heading into that. Outside of that, this past week in World of Warcraft, I mean, again, this was the second week of our 9.1.5. As much as we got a bunch big info number 9.2, we are still in a new chunk of update to the game, new content release. While there's not a lot of new content in it, there's just adjustments to current stuff. I'm still doing I've now throttled down in my grind because I did the big push that I wanted to do that first week when I had time off. Now that I'm back to work, I don't have as much time to throw at the game, but I'm enjoying my passive Kyrian leveling of Renown, where I basically swap over to Kyrian, do my emissary as them, do all of the quests that I can out there, kill all the world bosses, do all of that, and then swap back over to Venthyr and dump all the anima that I've gathered. I'll remind everyone of the tip I mentioned last week, which is you can do your anima conductor in all of your different covenants, and that counts towards the same progression. So you can literally like unlock one permanent thing a day if you want to, because you can go to Kyrian and do 4 nodes and then go over to Necrolord and do 2 nodes, then go over to, your Venthyr and do the 4 nodes or 5 nodes you have there, and then just upgrade something full. So it's pretty neat to permanently unlock those as you go. Obviously, it's going to slow down because as you permanently unlock them, you have 1 less energy you're earning a day, but I think that's pretty cool as a feature to quickly get the anima conductor online, since we know it does affect a lot of things. I found a weird thing, which is my Venthyr buff. You know, the anima conductor buff, so you can go out and talk to someone and gain a particular one of 3 buffs for that. It works across covenants. So nice. if I choose the Venthyr one, which is the one I chose, it spawns 2 mirrors that do damage. It reflects the sun, magnifiers basically, that do damage to the stuff that I'm attacking. When I'm Kyrian running around and I suddenly get those mirrors to spawn, it's hilarious. I'm like, wait a minute, where did these come from? This is a Venthyr thing, but apparently that's working that way, so I'm okay with it. I like that it works.
It's a lot of maintenance, but it's cool.
Yeah, I like that it works cross zones. Well, I unlocked it permanently at the first thing I unlocked, and then it's just like I just have the buff. I don't need to go back there every day. It's just up.
I thought it was like a daily thing. So this shows you how much I've been outdoors in Shadowlands lately.
Yeah, it doesn't turn off now that I've done it. I did it one time and now it's just on. So that's great. So I've been enjoying that. And that, yeah, like I said, works in questing all the different zones. Still tons of anima to grind. Like, oh my goodness. Like there's more than I can imagine to grind. So I try and get at that when I can and fill those in. Mythic Raid went smooth. It was again another 2-night. We haven't been really consistently getting a 1-night for a while, but we killed Sylvanas, and it was my turn at the mount, which means I got my Sylvanas mount this past week. No. My mythic Flappy Bird made me very happy. So I was very fortunate. I was very happy about that because I think it was last week we finished getting all of the raiders who were present at the actual kill their mount. And then this week I looted it off the boss and was just waiting for them to tell me to trade it away to someone, and eventually they're like, yeah, so Tree just keeps his and then we'll give this one to, and I was like, really?
Nice.
So it's like, yay. So yes, I was very happy to get my mount, which is great. And so it's been a good time. I mean, last week was my first week Venthyr raiding. Raiding as Venthyr is a funny experience because you do so much damage in such a little period of time that you just stay at the top of the meters for a while, and then eventually other people pass you, and then the 3-minute part hits again, and then you shoot back up at the top of the meters again, and slowly everyone passes you again. Because it's the weirdest graph to look at for damage, because you just do so much damage in that 30-second window, and then do very little damage for the other 2.5 minutes before the cooldowns come back up again. That it's a very odd feeling. I think there's a certain amount of freedom with it where as long as you do those 30 seconds really properly and well, you can slack off in the rest of it, in the sense of like you can always, and as you should, put mechanics first and be the guy who runs orbs off on Remnant and be the guy who does those things, because you've done all the damage you're essentially going to do. You're only going to do 5% of your total damage in the downtime versus the 95% you do during your uptime. So it's fine to be the mechanics person who goes out and does all the mechanics for things. Or
somebody's got to do it, or you're going to die. So
yeah, the other thing I like doing is it's a great opportunity to Heart of the Wild heal. So essentially use Heart of the Wild, go into your resto affinity, and then just start healing people and be essentially an additional healer on a fight during that downtime. So you have this odd spike of I do a ton of damage, then I do a whole bunch of healing for that consents time for my Heart of the Wild, and then I can go back to doing a bunch of damage again. That's actually what we did our Sylvanas kill. Is on the last platform, I blew all my cooldowns, emptied everything, and then just Heart of the Wild healed everybody and helped keep everyone alive when we actually were killing the boss, which felt really cool. So I like that aspect of the playstyle. It certainly isn't a super stimulating playstyle because outside of those 30 seconds, it's not like, oh my goodness, there's so many things to do. It's like, I guess I'm not doing damage, so I might as well do other things. I don't know. But it is an interesting thing that I'm curious at how they're going to address in 9.2 when we start seeing some class changes. And of course, the ever-present tier sets come in, because tier sets are going to affect everything in a big way too. That I feel like Venthyr and Nightfey can both scale pretty aggressively with the stat increases and potentially what those tier sets are doing. So I'm curious as to what the balancing is going to end up being for this class and spec. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that was my past week in WoW. I just sort of did a bunch of the choresy stuff and then did my raid stuff, and I got in 1 Mythic Plus to make sure I had that done for the week. And yeah, that was about it for me. Nice.
Yeah, I had a really, really light week of WoW. For whatever reason, I had a bunch of people out, like just a kind of staggering number of people were out for various reasons last week. So, we ended up doing 2 nights of heroic raiding. It was enough to re-clear, but it was very strange re-clearing some of these bosses with key personnel missing for so many of the fights. But we did that. We didn't have enough people present to even do mythic re-clears or whatever, let alone work on mythic prog. So that was just kind of out the window, and we were down so many people that I couldn't even scrape together like a Mythic Plus team. I didn't really feel like trying to put a team together on an off night where I wasn't logging in a raid anyway. So this is the first time in, like, I don't know, maybe ever since Keystones came in that I didn't have a Keystone in my vault, because I didn't do one last week, and that was kind of disappointing because it was a really good tyrannical week and I need some 20s. But that's just kind of where I'm at with this season and with the way the stuff in the game is right now. Like, I'm not doing another Covenant on my main. I just don't really care that much. I don't. And I'm similarly, like, I'm not really incentivized to play my alts. Like, there's just so much maintenance-y stuff you have to do to get an alt ready to go. Playing alts is not that much fun to me. It's like, the thing that I like about the game isn't swapping characters around and having all these different, flavors of play styles. It's just not what I do. So, I feel like the barriers are a bit higher, with getting a legendary crafted and doing, getting all your conduits up to a respectable degree and getting enough gear and all that. So it's like, I just don't want to. So yeah, super, super light week of WoW stuff for me. Like, one thing I did do was I got all my Nightfey followers are now level 60, which is awesome. But unfortunately, you still get like a ton of bonus XP missions, which is unfortunate because that doesn't really do anything for you. They did make the XP tokens that you get from some of the missions account bound, so you can trade them to another character. That's cool. Or I guess you could use it on a different Covenant or whatever once you have the item. But yeah, so I'm kind of just like mailing them over to my monk who I got started with Kyrian stuff and just leveling up followers I'm never going to use. But yeah, that was kind of a bummer because it's like I have so many followers that are just sitting around not earning me any currency or mats or anything because I have, bonus XP missions that literally don't afford me anything. So glad to have it done. But yeah, that would be nice if that would get adjusted because I want to send my followers out and have them go get stuff that I want.
Yeah, I did finish that too with Nightfey. And of course I swapped away from Nightfey. So now I'm envious of my Nightfey because it's literally complete. I have every follower maxed out. I was like, okay, that's done. And now I'm like, well, I'm doing everything on Venthyr and trying to level up all the Venthyr ones, so that's taking some time. The nice thing about leveling up all the Covenant's Renown is you get a whole bunch of those 75,000 tokens because you get 2 per covenant essentially. So you end up with like 6 of them, or
Yeah.
there might be 3. You might end up with 9 of them.
Yeah, I think you get 3 of them total. Yeah.
So I was able to essentially max out 1 follower, like all the way up to max level from Venthyr. So you have 1 maxed out follower. You have the 2 that carry over with Meatball and Crowman. Those both carry over because they're across all covenants.
Oh, nice.
So you still have those. So now I have 3 that are max level basically in Venthyr, and then the other ones are all like close to 20 just from me sort of rolling them into XP missions. I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of anima on trying to buy tokens to try and level up them all to 30. It was so much anima to spend to get all of them back up to that point that I'm like, I'll just passively do this the way I want to passively do this. And if I ever find that I'm at like a big surplus of anima again, I know what I can do with it. I can buy these tokens and level up followers, because there's a token that just sets a follower's level to 30, which is tempting a lot of the time to use. Which is that I think that's about, I think it's 100,000 experience is what that actually is worth. It's something around that, because 75 gets one to like 27 or something like that. So the 75k tokens. So I think it's probably 100,000 that you get to get a follower up to 30. So it does save you a lot of experience, which is great, but it's something that's very expensive animal wise, so it just wasn't quite worth it for me to indulge in. But yeah, so my mission table for Venthyr just rolls nonstop, loving those experience missions, wanting more of them to try and get this as maxed out as fast as possible.
Yeah, I never got enough of them when I had dudes to level up, but now that I have no more need for XP, I can't stop getting them. Although I guess maybe that's a bit of it's paradoxical in a way, because it's like I wouldn't have as many of them because I was doing them, so they'd go away. Now I'm not doing them, so they sit there. Yeah. Still, I just don't want them. Don't give them to me. I don't need XP. Give me something else.
Yeah, what I found when I was trying to farm particular items like my Divine Bell off of mission table is I would send those missions out with just 1 follower in them just to get them off my board, because it forces more missions to spawn. So if you're trying to ever farm something like a piece of gear like a Divine Bell, just whenever you see any gear mission show up, just send it out with a follower on it, because you want to get it off your table, because it'll make another gear one spawn. So if you're ever trying to cycle those things out, just get someone going on them. It's better to send it like that than it is to let it sit for the 20 hours or whatever it is that it can sit for. Because if you can complete it in 3, then you can have a new mission up in 3 hours, and it could potentially be something you want. So yeah, it's one of those balancing acts, but I find the mission table makes me enough anima that it's like a break-even point. There's no I don't really gain anima from the mission table.
Yeah, you don't yield any, but you tend not to really spend that much unless you get like really unlucky with not seeing anima missions pop up. But
so anyways, if you're done with your WoW stuff this past week, since it sounds like you didn't get into too much
that's really all I did. You know, it was a very light week, and I predict some more coming up. I mean, you know, doing the weekly quests and stuff just because they're very lucrative for the amount of time that you spend doing them. But other than that, it's light. I'm a little concerned that I'm just like, I think it's gonna be hard to keep a consistent roster together for raiding and dungeons through the rest of this patch, and I'm not sure 9.2 is gonna make much of a dent in that problem, but we'll see. We'll do what we can do.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. All right, this week is the Battleground bonus event, meaning the sign of battle is up, where honor gains from Battleground objectives and wins is increased by 50%, and there's a quest to win 4 random Battlegrounds. Man, oh man, do I ever wish Battleground bonus event was up during that Arathi Basin AI Brawl. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
That would have been so nice, so much honor, so fast. Oh, all right, anyways, hopefully that overlap happens someday, because I can definitely highlight when that happens. This week we have the PvP quest for arena and arena skirmishes, so that doesn't really tie into this at all, which is unfortunate. But our PvP brawl is Shadowpan Showdown, which is one of my favorites of all time. That's Tiger's Peak Arena, where essentially you race to control a center control point and activate 2 bosses, and the first team to kill the other one happens to win. This is that PvE PvP thing where you rush into the middle, and actually having a tank and having a healing team and having a DPS team is actually kind of fun, because not only are you fighting the other team, you're fighting this big boss that does a bunch of stuff. This is to me is what brawls are about. It's about making something so different that it can be pretty fun. So you'll get extra honor from doing the brawl, which is great. You also get some conquest and some marks of honor from the Something's Different quest, and that ties in with the Battleground bonus event. So there is some bonuses to be had this week if you are a fan of that Shadowpan Brawl.
Yeah, it's nice when that stuff lines up so you can get more stuff in less time. I seriously have never done this Brawl, I don't think, and it was gone for a really long time. This is only the second time we've seen it in 3.5 years. So yeah, maybe might be worth checking out if you're looking for something to do in the game this week, because you probably haven't done it before.
Yeah,
it didn't run very many times before it went away.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat one. Like, it is one that can feel very snowbally if a team gets in there and they sort of get their boss going early and they're sort of knocking you down very early. It can feel a bit snowbally, but yeah, it's a fun one. Like I definitely dove in the last time I saw it. It's a neat concept. It's something we saw a bunch with Heroes of the Storm, where there was a bunch of activatable bosses, and you'd fight a team plus a boss, or your boss would try and beat their boss, and like that kind of aspect was something that they played around with a lot in that. So it's cool to see that coming into WoW, and I enjoyed this the last time it was around. So feel free to check it out this week. All right, the world boss this week is Oranomanos the Ever-Branching, the big Tyranid in Ardenweald, who drops your Covenant ability conduits as well as some 207 gear. So if that's something you're looking for, be sure you're knocking out Oranomanos, as well as which memories towards legendaries can you get off of Oranomanos.
So now this boss is in Ardenweald, as you said. So you know the classes that want to check this out are they have some kind of tie to Ardenweald. Basically, you got Fevered Incantation for mages, Surging Shots for hunters, and Verdant Infusion for druids. You get the hunters and druids that have the kind of nature link, and then you know mages are magical, and Ardenweald's a very magical, enchanted forest type of zone. So there you go. If you need stuff on your mage, your hunter, or your druid, don't forget to mosey on over there and take care of Oranomanos this week, because you gotta fill up that UI.
Yeah, again, Torghast is a great thing to run these days. If you're someone who enjoyed it before, you can max out your box of many things very easily just by doing multiple runs. You don't have to run on max level. Yes, there is obviously more reward for running on a higher level, but for me, like I said, 10s are great. You get a really nice healthy reward out of that. You get a healthy amount of stuff towards the cube out of that. You get a lot of materials towards crafting legendaries. Once you actually get the cube high enough, you'll have 3 blessings, and you'll only be running against 1 torment, which means you're very strong. So it's a great way to run these. So I would certainly encourage people to dive into that. And if you're looking to make legendaries, that's a great way to farm. It's also a great way to get renown. If you're somebody who's just like, I just want to max out renown, I mean, you're going to use the cinders that you get out of this. You can either use them towards socketing your gear, or you can use them towards crafting legendaries. So I would encourage people to run some Torghast if you are looking for some legendary stuff, or some renown. They're both really, really helpful at the moment. There's also Morgeth, the Tormentor of the Damned, the big Mossborn up in Desmateron, which, remember, if you've cleared the raid on any difficulty, you can actually fly out to now. You can go down to Venari's Refuge and take the big portal at the very back of Venari's Refuge. It will give you the option to go to Desmateron. This will take you essentially right next to the raid entrance, but also right next to this world boss. So be sure you're using this transport to get there easily and knock out Morgeth, who drops the 200 eye level conduits for Adaptive Armor Fragment and Condensed Animasphere, as well as the Blood Shard of Rev, the Leech Shard, and some 233 eye level gear. So certainly worth doing every week. Also, chance at Renown, if that's something you're looking for, and 500 Anima. It's all about that Anima too, so be sure you're knocking this guy out if you can.
Yeah, it's definitely a good idea for if you're doing an anima farm or whatever, if you are switching covenants, playing a new tune, whatever. Not like you would forget to do the world boss, but you know, there are a lot of benefits here. It's half of the weekly for the anima collection. If you have the renown level where you're getting 500 from the world quest, it is a chance just at a renown drop, all this other stuff. So yeah, and now, you know, if you can do like LFR and unlock the teleport, like you said, and it's super convenient to get to now compared to the way it used to be.
Yeah. I'll also highlight, as far as conduits go, when you unlock your soul binds for a covenant, you get your base level, your like eye level 147 or whatever it is version of your covenant ability conduits, right? When you kill the world boss, there's a chance that thing drops at 200 eye level, I think. Yeah, I think it's 200 eye level. Well, the invasions, the incursions that happen in the Maw, where the Ardenweald will go in or Revendreth will go in, and you have to help them sort of fend off stuff inside the Maw. Those can drop the 226 versions. So be sure that you essentially are doing things in order. So when you log in, if you have a new covenant, whatever it is, Go kill the world boss. Try to get your, well, first unlock your soul binds if you haven't done that yet, because that'll get your base level. Get your 200 eye level one, because then you can get your 226 eye level one from doing the incursions into the maw, which means you only need one upgrade piece or two upgrade pieces to get up to the 252 eye level that you're looking to get to. So it's great to do those first. It just saves you those upgrade tokens, and it's just I would just encourage people to take advantage of the easy conduit grabs, because you do need to do them for each of the covenants. I need to do them for all the different covenants to make sure I'm sort of all maxed out. We know that in 9.2 they're not really progressing that system in a dramatic way. They're not touching Renown at all. It's a whole new progression system. We know Soulbinds are carrying over. We just don't really know 100% what's happening with conduits yet, so we'll get to that a little bit later on. But that's certainly something that's worth checking out. All right, Torghast is Soul Forges and Upper Reaches, so be careful in the Soul Forges. The Firecasters still hurt a lot, so watch out for that. If you're going to be running some Torghast this week. In Oribos, we have the Other Side and Necrotic Wake as our dungeon quests. Be sure you're picking those up before you run some dungeons. That was a pretty easy. That was the one dungeon I ran last week. We had the double up last week, and I just went in there.
That's the way to do it.
Ran the one dungeon, got the double reward, turned it all in, felt great. Yeah. So be sure you're picking up your dungeon quests. This week, if I had to choose between these two, I'd run the Other Side, simply because that's where the tanking trinket drops from, and everyone wants one of the tanking trinkets. So it's either that or a cube. But this week is Fortified, Spiteful, and Grievous. So non-boss enemies have 20% more health and inflict 30% increased damage. Fiends rise from the corpses of non-boss enemies and pursue random players. And injured players suffer increasing damage over time. This kind of sucks for something like the Other Side, like I just said. Simply because there's a couple of tight corridors in a few of the wings that you have to sort of deal with, which makes getting away from the Spitefuls a little tricky. And since everything's doing 30% more damage from Fortified, a lot of the trash hurts a lot. There's a lot of AoE trash that does large AoE damage. And so that's going to tick you down below that 90% health pretty quickly, which means Grievous is going to start ticking on you, which means Grievous is going to start stacking on you, which hurts even more. A lot of the bosses do AoE damage as well, which is going to set all the players low, especially the last boss inside a place like the Other Side, where everyone has to split up and go their own direction. It's very easy to get ticked low and then have Grievous come back up to full stacks by the time you get back up to the group, or you die over on the platform before you click your totem, which really sucks. So you got to be careful about all these things. This week, I would say pay really big attention to your health as both a DPS tank and a healer, especially a healer, because, hey, FYI, we are all terrible at healing ourselves and we're all great at healing everyone else. It's the amount of times the healer dies because they're too busy making sure the tank doesn't die is huge. Like I've seen it all the time. It's happened to me. I do it all the time. It is one of those dangerous things where you're so focused on keeping everyone else alive, you don't notice that your health is getting lower, that you're in a dangerous situation. So pay attention to your own health. As any role that you are in a dungeon, use your health potions. Bring some health potions along with you. Bring some, ability to sort of reduce your damage taken or snap yourself back up. I might run Renewal as a druid over top of running Wild Charge this week, simply because that 30% heal is massive, and being able to do that and spike myself back up and help my healer out is huge. Don't forget that single target heals reduce the stacks of Grievous. So if you choose to, actually cast a Regrowth on yourself or a Holy Light or whatever it is, you will reduce the stacks of Grievous that you have on you and increase your health, potentially moving you out of Grievous range, which will help your healer out a lot. So it's all about helping your healer out this week with Grievous, especially on a Fortified week where you're taking increased damage. It's going to be below that 90% more often. And then last but not least, Spiteful, gotta deal with these ads. Whether you're DPSing them down, or you're doing what I love to do, which is knocking them all back away from people and then mass rooting them in place with either a Frost Nova or a Mass Entangle, or you're using whatever the monks have, knockback circle, Ring of Peace, to knock them all back away from you. Anything like that to keep these Spiteful ads away from you will be really helpful. So be sure you're using your utility to do that. But the biggest thing this week is just reducing your damage taken, healing yourself, helping your healer out with Grievous.
Yeah, this is kind of a nasty week for a trash combo. It is going to be a bit slow. It's going to be a bit of a slog. Dungeons that have like really thick trash are going to be a lot harder than others. Like Spires of Ascension is going to be fun this week. It's just trash is going to be alive a really long time. It's going to hurt you while it's alive, and then it's going to turn into ghosts after you kill it. So
Yep.
yeah, always a good idea to try to just like reposition away from the ghosts if you can, because if you have to stand there and kill them, it's going to waste even more time. But on something like Spires, you're in combat with those ghosts immediately, and guess what? You can't take the angel taxis if you're in combat. So there are situations where you have no choice but to stand there and kill even more trash. It's just going to be, it's going to be tough. It's going to be doable in terms of completion because you don't have tyrannical. Most of the stuff doesn't really matter on most bosses. I mean, Grievous can happen on like big AoE or on higher keys. But you will be able to get there probably, but yeah, it's just you might have to take your time. You might end up getting stuck on a couple trash packs or having to kind of whittle the trash down because this is another nasty fort week. We had one 2 weeks ago. This one is pretty much in that same category.
Yeah, exactly. All right, WoW's 17th anniversary is here. It's live through December 6th, and you can log in to get yourself an achievement and the anniversary gift package, which contains 200 Time Warp badges, an invitation from the Time Walkers, which sends you off down into the Caverns of Time, where you can head down there and talk with all the different NPCs that are in that area. You also get your token that you can use, your anniversary token, which gives you that increased experience and reputation gains by 17% since it's the 17th anniversary. And there's, of course, the daily quests that you can do. Now, the daily quests encompass a few things, and they are very worthwhile doing if you're someone who's interested in anything with time walking. You can defeat all the classic world bosses that spawn up. You can head out to do your daily trivia, which I know Jason loves. I'll let Jason cover the daily trivia because he loves this.
I mean, it's good. I feel like it's not as lucrative right now as it has been in past years, but I went out with a couple tunes already and I did a trivia question, and at level 50 it was 10% of a level. I mean, that's the easiest 10% of a level you're ever going to get, is clicking on a thing and then answering the trivia question. And even if you don't know it and you get it wrong, you just try again until you find one that right? Like, it's not a very high burden of execution. I mean, in previous years, the trivia question was like a third of a level a day, which was ridiculous. It doesn't work that way now, but it's still a nice little trickle if you have a tune that like you're not quite ready to level up yet, but you want to get them going or something. I mean, there's also the defeating the world bosses. That gives a nice chunk. There's a weekly for the new world boss. That gives a pretty sizable chunk. I think like with the one daily and the weekly for Doomwalker, that was about 30% to level 51 on a couple tunes today. So that's not too bad for not very much time investment at all, considering there's a portal straight out to Caverns of Time and all that. I mean, the anniversary event is really fun, and having Caverns of Time all, decorated up and stuff is cool. There's a ton of stuff to buy on the vendors and all that, stock up on your Van Cleef costumes for the year and stuff. It's cool. The cool thing is they've added a lot to it over the years, and there's a bunch of stuff that has become sort of permanent fixtures of the event, as time has gone on.
Yeah. The new stuff though, there's Doomwalker up in Tanaris that you can do. There's an Illidari Doomhawk mount that can drop. That Doomwalker trophy stand toy. There's Akama's Edge, which is the new weapon, the 226 weapon. All very cool things. I'm glad they added all this stuff. It's cool that they continue to add stuff to it every year. This feels like one of the yearly events / celebrations that actually gets stuff every year. So that's kind of cool and fun. Like, I dig that.
Yeah, most years it does. Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I loved that when they first introduced the Caverns of Time thing, I was thrilled. It's fantastic. I love heading down there and doing stuff. Lots of people are queuing up for things. It's a really good time. The time walking version of Alterac Valley with Korok's Revenge. There's a toy that you literally can just buy. You zone in, and if you walk, like if you're there before the thing starts, right when the timer's counting down, you can walk up to the front of the cave that you start in, talk to the vendors there. There's a free toy that gives you that you can get in there. It lets you teleport back to sort of your main hub base inside Alterac Valley, but it's a toy, which is something that fills in a bar, that fills in something in achievements. So I get it.
It counts towards that shredder mount, right? Like, absolutely. And kind of a funny thing about the Doomwalker, right? I didn't play yesterday, but I played today, and I went out and went straight to Tanaris after I was done with my weekly stuff. on my main, and I killed Doomwalker and I got the toy, and I didn't get the mount, and I went, okay, well, I know the mount's supposed to be low drop rate, whatever. Later on, I came back and I brought some alts out there, and I started killing Doomwalker like over and over again, and I'm checking out like how much XP I'm getting for doing the weekly and the daily and all that, and just trying to get extra shots at the mount. And then I don't know, I was only like 8 or 9 tunes deep, maybe not even that many, and then the mount dropped, and I was like, oh wow, I got really lucky. I thought maybe I'd be parking my 30 plus level 50s out here for the next 3 weeks. And then I log out of the game and I see Wowhead, and a hotfix went out. The mount's 100%.
Oh.
So that's awesome. I mean, when do they ever do that? I just kind of figured like, oh, well, this will be on this holiday boss forever. This is a new Horseman mount or Love Rocket or whatever.
That's what everyone
right?
was assuming.
Yeah. But apparently not. So, if you already killed it Tuesday's reset NA, well, either get another level 30 plus tune out there or wait until tomorrow. Yeah. But I think it's a great call. It's the anniversary, man. If you're participating right now, you should have the stuff that you want and stuff they put in.
Yeah.
Now the question is, do I set up my characters who are Agi users to try to get the Akama's Edge? I don't really care that much. Like, it's cool, but it doesn't have the same kind of utility as a mount and a toy, which like every character can use, and it's just fun to have in your collection. Axe Mogs are nice, but I don't know if it's worth trying to fish for it. I got a cool two-handed axe. I think it was an axe on my DK. It does drop. The boss does just straight up drop 226, or no, I don't know. I don't know what it drops at max level, because my DK wasn't max level, so my DK got like something that was worse than what she was carrying forward from the pre-expansion event. It was like 80 level, item level 85, I think. Yeah. But it was Maga didn't have, so that was cool.
It's 226. All the bosses drop 226
at max level.
Yeah.
I'll get more use out of a two-handed axe Mog than a one-handed axe Mog anyway, I guess, across my entire account of strength users.
There's very few classes that can use a one-handed axe. It's shocking how few classes can use a one-handed axe.
Right. Yeah. So cool, very cool addition. Super convenient. I love that it's just parked right outside the entrance of Caverns of Time. You don't have to go fishing for it. It respawns every couple minutes. Great. Great addition to the event for sure.
Yeah, I dig this. I really enjoy this event. I did throw the trivia stuff over to Jason, but I mean, the ability to park characters at the trivia person in Stormwind or in Orgrimmar, do the trivia every day, and if you're really going for it, take the portal to the Caverns of Time, do the trivia there as well, because there's trivia in both places, and you can get even more experience done on that character. Just passive leveling, super easy to do, especially with the token that increases your experience and reputation gains. I love this token. It's so good because it's not like from quests or from kills. It's just increases experience and reputation gains flat. Yes, good, thank you. So I'm thrilled. I like this event.
Yeah, and it's not even like you don't have to. There's no maintenance. You use it once, you have the buff for the duration of the event. In the old days, it used to last for an hour. You have to keep refreshing it.
And then, exactly.
Inevitably, it would run out just as that BG was completing or something, or you'd wouldn't notice it. You'd turn in a whole quest lap without it.
Yeah.
Now it's like just open the package, use it. You're good for the next 3 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Pilgrim's Bounty is happening. It's coming up. It ties in with American Thanksgiving. So that's going to be November 23rd until November 30th. And so if you are looking to get your, silver-plated turkey cannon or whatever it is, that gun?
The turkey shooter thing? Yeah, it's still, I think that's what it is.
Yeah. You can feel free to try and get your silver-plated turkey shooter. The first year that they introduced the killing turkeys and you got a buff each time you killed a turkey, and you got like the Turkinator and all sorts of...
The Turkinator, you have to keep killing turkeys for a certain duration,
That was hilarious, because Elwyn Forest going around trying to find a turkey before someone else found it. There was a real competition for getting this done.
It was cutthroat, man. That was like 2011, I think.
Yeah, it was a
cutthroat. Long time ago now, but yeah.
I recall it very well. It's fun to do. I do enjoy this event. So if you're looking to get your turkey on, feel free to jump in on Pilgrim's Bounty. It's a really good time. All right, 9.2 was announced as Eternity's End. That is the name of the content update that we're going to be getting. So if that's something that you're interested in, stick around because we're going to talk about it right now. All right. I'm not going to do any story spoilers because people want to do that on their own and figure it out on their own. And I know people out there who have specifically tried to avoid what's going on. All I will say is, hey, there's a new zone. It's called Zareth Mortis, and we're going there. That's a bit of a story spoiler, but we're not going to tell you how we get there or what happens with it. But
it's very mild spoiler. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a new zone. It's a place we haven't been before.
Yeah,
it is in the Shadowlands proper. Like it's that part of the map, right? If you zoom all the way on your map and you click Shadowlands, then Zareth Mortis will be another hub on it, basically. Yeah, it's a new place. It's not like a rework like they've done in previous, like 8.3, we were going to 2 reworked old zones. This is a brand new place with new NPCs and creatures to meet and stuff.
Yeah. And obviously when we talk with Morgan Day on Friday, we will have spoilery stuff happening in that, and I'll warn everybody ahead of it. But for today's episode, we're going to talk about Cypher the First Ones, which is a new system that is essentially going to replace the existing renown system for us to progress. It's going to be a new system that we progress, and it's going to involve a lot of zone activities and daily quests and events and rewards. So it's essentially what I would presume from the system that we've heard is what's going to unlock. It basically would be the anima conductor, I would think, is the way to think about it, of Zareth Mortis, giving you access to all of these things. With increased daily quests and zone activities and zone rewards and zone benefits and all stuff tied in with that. So that'll be something that we're working towards progressing. And obviously what I tied in with that is we won't be progressing Renown. Renown caps at 80. So you'll progress your Renown up to 80, and then you will be working on your Cypher. We can probably work on them in tandem if you're on a newer character who hasn't maxed out Renown. So you can actually get the new system going. So that'll be interesting to check out as far as
this is kind of it's kind of like the engine that drives Zareth Mortis, right? In terms of what we're doing out there, what we have access to. I'm wondering at this moment if it's a set progression path. So every time you reach a particular plateau, everybody unlocks the same thing, or do you need to pick and choose from a suite of things? Is this time gated, and if so, how heavily? Like I assume it's going to be, because most of these types of systems have been in the past, and even if they don't have a hard time gate, it's like a rep grind where there's only so much rep you can get anyway.
Right.
So I'd imagine this is a system that's kind of planned out for us to engage with for probably at least the first 6-8 weeks post patch to unlock everything and get all the benefits out of. It seems interesting. It's kind of similar to some stuff that we have seen in Shadowlands and stuff that they've done before, which is fine. I mean, I think sticking with stuff that works is a good idea. Renown worked pretty well. I think tacking on 40 ranks of Renown would maybe not be great at this point, and having something that everybody can just hop into and focus on when the new patch is out, that sounds good. My concern here is how much actual content and stuff to do is tied behind certain unlocks on the Cypher. They mention activities, daily quests, events, and rewards. Well, I want to be able to do daily quests and activities as soon as I get out there. So hopefully there's plenty of stuff that's presented, even if you have no Cypher ranks. The other thing that I immediately thought of is this better afford its benefits account wide, or people are going to be really frustrated right off the jump, right? If you have to take every single character through every single part of this process to do stuff like unlock daily quests, right? That goes back to these weird bottlenecks that we're trying to get away from in 9.15. So, right. These are things I think about when the system is introduced to me. It seems cool on its surface. It's got a cool story hook, which we'll probably talk about more on Friday. Or if you watch the video, then you know what it is. But it seems like there's a lot of cool bonuses tied to this system. So hopefully they're fun to unlock, and even if they're on a set track, I think they can still add some cool spiky moments of you unlock this cool thing right away that then does this, and then a couple weeks later you get those next big spikes.
I hope it's like Box of Many Things, where you unlock everything eventually, but you can choose sort of from 3 different choices, as to where you're focusing at that stage, right? Of, hey, you've completed this stuff. Do you want to unlock daily quests or events first? And you're like, oh, well, I guess I'll do events first. So you can unlock events and have events and do events, and you do events for a week, and then, hey, now you get to unlock daily quests. And now you have daily quests and events happening. And then as a bonus rewards, do you unlock treasures? Do you unlock, like, that to me would be neat if it was a tiered out tree similar to Box of Many Things. I liked that unlock system because you could really choose what you want to, invest in as far as your time and your play
style,
loop.
yeah,
It suits your play loop, which I like.
You can even do both with this. You have like these big headline things that maybe unlock on a weekly basis, and then you have some leeway to pick whatever you want. Like, that's what I really hope for the system, is some degree of account-wide flexibility, and also at least some ability to get particular bonuses earlier. Because I think like screenshots, obviously none of this stuff is final yet. It's not even up on PTR yet, but they included like a screenshot of what the Cypher UI looks like, and there is a giant grid of bonuses. So, hopefully we get to pick and choose at least some of it.
Yeah, hope so. Okay. The other thing to factor in is there is unlockable flying. A lot of the times these final zones or these other zones we travel to don't have flying. So there will be flying that we can unlock in that zone. So that's a big thing for people.
This is great. Yeah, It's going to unlock through the Cypher. And yeah, that'll be awesome. I think a big drag on Korthia has been you can't fly there. We get flying as in the Korthia patch, but we can't use it in the place where we're spending most of our time. That won't be an issue here.
Yeah. And then we also have a new source of legendary currencies. This means that your Soul Cinders and Soul Ash will still be used to craft initial chunks of legendaries, but we don't know if that's going to be the next tier of currency we use. We do know that there's a new source of currency, which means that we essentially are going to be getting that currency and leveling up our legendaries even more.
Yeah, you won't have to specifically do Torghast in order to get the legendary currency for the new legendary ranks.
Yeah,
I think it's a great choice. I think we want, you make this big new outdoor zone and you give people stuff to do in it. You want to have as much of the patch, I think, focused on engaging with that zone as possible, instead of I think there's always been a disconnect with the Torghast grind for materials to make a legendary item. It feels a bit disjointed, so I'm glad it's just totally going away in the next patch.
Yeah. And now along with that, we will also be unlocking the ability to equip 2 legendaries. Now, one of them has to be your Covenant legendary, but then the other one can be the legendary of your choice. So, for example, I currently use, as a Venthyr Boomkin, my Covenant legendary. I use it. That's the one that I wear. It's the best one for me. I would then be able to equip Pulsar along with that, or another one on with that. So I gain both benefits throughout using this power, which is pretty exciting. I know a lot of people were disappointed that you didn't just equip any 2 legendaries, but I do feel like this allows them to sort of keep a certain amount of reins on things to sort of have some kind of balancing involved. I think at least defining it as you have to use your Covenant legendary means that they can have a baseline that everyone's on, and then it's about which other legendary are people equipping. But I understand also the people who are like, you know what? If this is the end of the expansion, let people go nuts. Let's just let people be broken if they want to be broken. So
yeah.
I understand both sides of this. I appreciate from the design level wanting the restraint and ability to balance, and I appreciate from the player perspective of I just want to do crazy ridiculous things with legendaries. Let me do crazy ridiculous things with legendaries.
Well, see, my thing with this is from a tanking perspective, like, this is not that cool of a benefit. I'm gonna have to make my Covenant legendary because it's item level. It's so much power. I can't just say no to it, right? I have to do it.
You have to do it. Yeah.
But all it does is it makes me do more damage. Whereas some of my other legendaries, when I don't do a lot of damage, so now I do like slightly more than not a lot of damage, right?
Right.
And meanwhile, a lot of my other legendaries mix up my playstyle or give me really cool benefits to my defensive abilities, my throughput, whatever, that are fun to use. I would love to use a couple of my defensives like in concert with each other to make a cool build. But instead, like, I have to make this item that I don't really want because the opportunity cost is too high. There's no way I can not have it. But all it does is, like, it makes my Ancient Aftershock better. Okay, that's great. It's already a button that I just push on cooldown and don't really think about,
right.
And at least in raiding. In dungeons, there's a little bit of technique, but yeah, I mean, it's probably simpler to do it this way in terms of like tuning and balance. But
yeah.
let me just use whatever I want. Like I think we all thought that 2 legendaries were coming, so it's not really that big of a surprise. But it's that like good idea wrapped in a bad idea. I feel like we run into with WoW sometimes.
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Because we haven't seen any balancing as to what's actually going to happen with them. So as much as it isn't a super interesting change for you of, hey, this ability just does more damage, which isn't like, oh, this is going to change my gameplay in a really neat and interesting way, which 2 legendaries of any type could certainly allow you to do. It is something where, saying that you do little damage and this let you do a little bit more damage, we don't know how broken or how strong or how buffed or whatever it is these might happen. So that one I would say wait and see. But the part of this not making your gameplay more interesting, fully acknowledge. Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of a trend in the overall game design, I think, over the last 5 years of like tanks are like very sturdy DPS. And not to say that tank gameplay isn't fun, but like the idea that defensive power is valuable is just not really on the table. The point is like, can you manage your active mitigation well enough that you're doing as much damage as possible at all times? And
exactly.
like, that's fine, but that's not really what I like about the role. So I'm waiting for that pendulum to swing the other way someday. It's not going to be in 9.2, obviously, but that would have been a little piece if I could have a couple defensive legendaries together that up my throughput, because it's like, well, then you get to push more buttons, and pushing more buttons is always fun.
Yeah. Now, there's going to be a new raid. We know it's going to be an 11 boss raid, and we know that it's going to have Anduin in it. And I think that's pretty safe to say along the way, because there's another piece of this I want to talk about, which we'll discuss with Morgan on Friday. It's an 11 boss raid where in the first week that we have access to Heroic, you can only kill 8 of the 11 bosses. And the 8th boss that you are defeating, I don't really know what, I wouldn't say kill, but defeating, is Anduin. And the explanation we've been given is that it's for story point reasons. They want to really be sure that they have an opportunity for the important story stuff to take place, and then have a down period, and then move into the rest of the story. So that's what their goal or objective is with making it 8 bosses out of 11. There's certainly people who have a lot of questions about that, but that's what we're seeing up front. And so we'll see where it goes from there. So we basically have opening week, you can kill the first 8. The following week on Mythic, you can kill the first 11. Obviously, the whole raid on Heroic, and start into doing Mythic content.
Yeah, I think it's fine to have the raid like slightly time gated. I think the idea that it's because of the story being told via the raid is a little, I don't want to say ridiculous, but it's like we're not playing the raid for the story. It's the last. It might be on the list of concerns of like why a new raid is interesting, but for most people, I think who raid, it's pretty far down there, right? Like we want to learn the bosses and like perform well and get cool loot, and maybe check out the story. I think there's plenty of good reasons to time gate this particular raid. This raid's gonna live a long time. It's 11 bosses is a lot, but it's not like the biggest tier we've ever seen to cap off an expansion, not even close. So why not? I guess if they feel like there's some value in creating a dramatic beat between week 1 and 2 of the raid being open, I don't really think it's going to actually do the trick for anybody. Like I can't imagine what's at the end of this fight that's so mind blowing that we need to step back for a week. I do kind of see why you want to throttle teams from running like dozens of heroic splits to farm out the last couple bosses that have like the really good loot, that's higher item level at half step between difficulties to like make the mythic push that much easier. Like I understand wanting to throttle that. I think saying like we need to do it because of the story is a bit silly, but and I'm sure it's gonna be controversial, but this time last year it was like, oh, but if Sanctum of Domination's out, that means I can't have Thanksgiving dinner with my family, or I'm sorry, Castle Nathria is out. It's like there's always some kind of problem with the timing of raid releases. Part of the thing is like setting aside time of your life to play like organized high level World of Warcraft is very inconvenient. There's like a million other things that demand your time as an adult. It's just the way that life is. So the schedule is never going to be 100% convenient or approved of by everybody. But I don't know. I mean, I guess we haven't seen this since like Ice Crown Citadel, like a sort of a gated opening. I'm interested to see if it has any kind of impact that is positive in any way. I think it'll basically be fine because it's, most teams aren't going to be engaging with a lot of this stuff that first week anyway. And even the ones that do, like, this is the content that you're getting until next expansion. So, do with it as you will.
Yeah, I felt very similarly when I heard this announcement of, well, everyone's on the same page, so it's not like this is in some way super harming a team. It's no, every team can do the first 8 bosses. That's where we're at. Yes, as you said, they don't have access to that really top high end, in between gear, which the last few bosses have been dropping throughout the expansion. We've seen that as a consistent thing, so I expect it would be here. We also don't know what tier set items will drop off of those last couple bosses. That could be another crucial thing as to why they're sort of holding it back, is that power that they weren't expecting to happen out of Shards of Domination, where Shards of Domination, if one team happened to get lucky on drops, then they had substantially more power than a team that didn't get lucky on drops. So that could also be a way of controlling that. There's a bunch of things that go into this. I know that when our current raid tier, Sanctum of Domination, came out, we essentially saw a lot of teams not able to kill Sylvanas in the first week, primarily due to a lot of bugs and issues with the fight. But it was one of those cases where teams that were able to kill it definitely got an edge up versus teams that weren't. And so this also removes some of that. It puts people on a closer playing field coming into that first Mythic week, which I think will be interesting to see how that affects the race and everything else involved in it. So yeah, I'm curious. I know there's probably a lot of motivations behind this. I agree with you that the story one isn't like a super believable reasoning for doing it. So it'd be neat to hear some perspective on the other sides of the decision that happened with that one. All right. We're going to be getting the first wing of Raid Finder difficulty as well. That's going to be opening up in that first week of Mythic. So basically, that when the Mythic week comes out, we'll get the first week of Raid Finder, and then every other week after that, we'll see another wing of Raid Finder, presumably. Obviously, they haven't released the schedule for Raid release yet, because they haven't released the release date for this patch yet. So they can't give us a schedule until we even know when the thing's dropping. So that's the assumption that we're going to be seeing, but obviously there will be a Raid Finder for this raid. We see class sets return. We got set bonuses coming in. They're going to be distinctive sets via raids, PvP, and Mythic Plus dungeons. This is kind of cool. So if you're someone who's like, hey, I really want a 2-piece or a 4-piece bonus, because those are the bonuses we're going to be seeing, you'll be able to earn those bonuses through those activities, which means Mythic Plus is going to have some set tier gear stuff, some set gear, class sets, not really tier gear, because tier gear comes from raid, but some set gear, and that could be kind of cool. Whether or not it's powerful specifically in M+, or those dungeons, or I would presumably say the PvP stuff turns on and off based off whether or not you're in PvP. I think that'll be interesting to see what they choose to do with those powers. That's another question we can ask, is how do these set bonuses work and interact with the different content that we use them in? Similar to Shards of Domination, but
we have no examples of what the bonuses are. It's hard to say, and it's a little ambiguous, all of the wording, as far as like, are there unique bonuses? Is there a raid bonus and a PvP bonus and a Mythic Plus bonus? Is there a per spec bonus, or is there just a static bonus regardless of what you're doing? We actually don't totally know that at the moment. But I think having sets is something that people have been asking for basically since they went away. I think they're cool. It's fun to collect them, and the bonuses can frequently change up gameplay in an interesting way. And I think that's one thing that BFA and Shadowlands have really been lacking for me, is the fact that like my playstyle at the beginning is basically the exact same as my playstyle at the end, because set bonuses haven't impacted that. In Legion, there were like 3 distinct Prot Warrior playstyles from as the expansion rolled on because of set bonuses. So it does add a lot of cool vectors where you can have some interesting decisions and mix up the gameplay. I think what they're doing with having other sources to acquire the set pieces is smart. I don't love it, because I feel like set drops, they should be from raid bosses. Like, that's the tradition of the game, and that's the way it's always been. And we need reasons to have people participate in raid, because it's such a high bar, right? To get an organized raid together, to get that many people on the same page to kill raid bosses, it's a much higher organizational burden than anything else in the game. And so you need this kind of crowning achievement loot to have, and tier sets were always kind of that.
Yeah.
You know, I in Castle Nathria, we didn't have any really good raid loot at all. I don't think I was wearing hardly anything, maybe a trinket here or there, but everything you wanted was out of dungeons. This season it's flipped because domination gear is so good and the bonuses are so potent, you got to have them. But then that creates a problem for people who want powerful loot but don't want to raid, which is like, well, this is kind of the point, is like the game is encouraging you to try to raid. So I guess we'll see. Ultimately, I do like the idea that like you can unlock an ability via the cipher to transform an upgradable item into a set item.
Yeah, from your grade vault.
Yeah, so like you don't get a piece that you really don't want out of your vault, but if you get a piece that you want to transform, then you have the ability to make that choice. Like, I love that kind of idea, right? Because for raiders, like, man, if you get like let's say your primary thing is raid, but you do some dungeons and you get like a set piece that you got 6 weeks ago as your dungeon choice, like that's not why you did that dungeon, right? But that sounds like it's not going to happen, but it'll be if you get shoulders that are upgradable out of the valor or honor system, then you can upgrade those to or transform them really into a set item of equivalent item level. Like, that's actually awesome if you need to fill in a particular spot, or if you're just not like a regular raider and you need some coverage, you really want this bonus, but you don't kill enough raid bosses to get it. Yeah, it sounds like they're doing some interesting stuff with how those rewards are being distributed, and I think they've been a little too loath to make those types of changes to loot over the years. So I think the fact they're talking about something like this early is really cool.
Yeah, the question I would have is, because we know you can get side items from your grade vault, and inside the same sentence, they mentioned the cipher unlock to transform an upgradable item into a set item, is whether or not you could get an upgradable item to drop from a Mythic Plus dungeon and take that item back to whatever the cipher device is that does this and turn it into a set item, or whether it's an option through the vault. So you have to look at your vault rewards and decide whether or not you want to re-roll a vault reward into a tier item. That I don't know. And so that's something I want to find out, because there's a big difference between those two. If there's the ability to just take an item from a Mythic Plus dungeon and bring it back to whatever, the main town is, and throw it in the cipher and turn it into a tier piece, that's great. Like, that is a super easy way to get tier gear. But if it's something where it's the Great Vault reward, it means you can only do it once a week. And it means that, you have that decision you're making between, do I want this item that I got from the vault, or do I want a tier piece instead? So it depends on how it plays out. This is why we want more information, right? This is why we need that, because the difference between those two is pretty strong.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea. It's just, the implementation might be a little thorny, but they've never really tried anything like this before. So, I mean, I just basically hope the bonuses are cool and desirable and something that's actually fun to play with.
Yeah, I feel like these 2 pieces and 4 pieces need to be something that feels like it changes the way you play your class in an interesting and diverse way. It can't be what you've described for what your legendary is doing of, hey, what I normally do is just stronger. Like, that's
no, we need something that's going to affect rotations, affect priority.
Yeah.
Just have cool procs that make you hit a button more frequently, anything like that.
As long as it's not run around and pick up orbs, I'm okay with it. I really dislike that one. In my experience playing Kyrian again, I have Pelagos as my soulbind, and one of the things Pelagos does is drops orbs that grant stamina around you, and you have to pick them up. And I actually completely forgot that was a thing, since I hadn't played it since the beginning of this expansion, until I started doing more Kyrian stuff recently. And then my weak aura started popping up being like, there are 3 more orbs for you to collect. There's 2 more orbs for you to collect. Quickly grab an orb. They're going to expire. I'm like, oh my goodness, I forgot that this existed. This is frustrating as a mechanic for me. So yeah, just don't give me that, but give me other stuff. I like the other stuff. Give me a proc that pops, and when it pops, I do something different for a period of time. That's cool. I'm down with that. Let's have that going. Outside of that, the Tazavesh dungeon is obviously getting split into 2 different versions. So there's going to be the front half of the dungeon and the back half of the dungeon. And so that's for Mythic Plus. So you'll be able to actually just do one part of it, and it'll be inside the Mythic Plus system. I'm not looking forward to getting one of these keystones. These bosses were hard. I can't picture how difficult they're going to be when they scale up. There's a lot of mechanics to them. It's going to require a lot of organization to do. The nice thing is these wings are also going to be available for heroic difficulty via the Dungeon Finder. So you can actually do heroic versions of it a little bit easier, because you're just going to do the front wing or the back wing. But man, oh man, I'm not looking forward to Mythic Plus Tazavesh simply because
Especially tyrannical.
it's challenging. It is a challenging dungeon, so it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, maybe they'll just tune it appropriately, so it's in line. But yeah, it seems like it's going to be way harder than the rest of the pool. It's also probably going to move the goalposts for where you need to get for KSM and stuff, because now there's 2 more dungeons in the pool, so you probably need, another 600 total rating or whatever. Yeah, I don't really love it when they put the mega dungeons in the Mythic Plus Keystone pool, but I certainly expect it after all these years.
Yeah.
There is cool loot in there though, so it'll be good to be able to get that max item level loot, or just 1/2 step below max item level loot out of Tazavesh, because right now you can't. It's the loot is interesting, but it's just not good enough at the top end. But now you'll be able to get it at the top end.
Yeah. Outside of that, I just want to highlight that the new reputation will be grinding is called Enlightened. That's who you'll be grinding reputation with, that for all the different rewards and stuff that are unlocked through that. They got a ton of new mounts and pets, and they have tons of pictures of them up on Wowhead if you want to go look at them. We got profession updates. We got conduits that are getting some tweaks to them, as well as potentially upgrading conduits since soulbinds are carrying forward. There is a solo queue being added for 3v3 arena, meaning if you're someone who has really been looking forward to being able to queue up for arenas and get arena points by yourself, they're adding it as a brawl called Solo Shuffle. So you can actually queue up for 3v3 arena by yourself. I assume this is probably their testing phase, which is why it's coming as a brawl.
Yeah.
Getting this actually going as a live thing. I know a lot of people wanted to be able to queue for arena solo for quite a while, so this is your opportunity to try it out with this new Solo Shuffle brawl. As far as your characters go, you're getting a boost. They're adding the level 60 boost in. It's going to be available. Actually, it's available now, I believe. So you actually go in and do it right away. So if you're someone who wants to boost a character, you can boost a character to 60.
No more level 50 boost.
Yep, no more level 50 boost.
It's coming a bit early, but it's probably better to do it early at this point.
Yeah,
with
sure.
the way with where we're at right now, why not just do it?
Yeah. And then the thing I want to highlight, probably that got me the most excited of this entire announcement. This announcement overall, the 11-minute video they put out, was a little disheartening because there was not enough information in it for me. I wanted so much more, which might speak to just how early they are in development for this. They haven't locked down a lot of stuff yet. But finding out things like you can equip 2 legendaries was something we got out of a Google translated interview that happened in China. So it's unfortunate that we're having to sort of dig for some of these details to find them. I wish there was a little bit more of an info blog that came out. Hopefully we see one soon. But yeah, in the meantime, sources like us, we're going to be able to interview Morgan and go, hey, here's all the questions that we have from stuff that we didn't get answers for. Could you please answer those things? So it left me with the most exciting thing walking away from this whole deal, because there's so much vague detail, is this dancing mini game being added to Darkmoon Faire. That's right, we're getting DDR in the Darkmoon Faire. It looks like you can compete against friends standing on platforms next to you, which I'm also excited about. But yeah, I want to see how this plays out. I have already expressed my love for Darkmoon Faire and my joy that they are adding new things to it. So I'm pretty thrilled that we're getting this little dancing mini game added in there. I certainly will enjoy going down, and if it's DDR like, then I'm down. I played a lot of that. If it works the same way where I use my arrow keys and there's arrow keys flying up the screen and I can just like dance with the arrow keys, I'm down. I'm in. That's it for me. I'm good.
Yeah, it seems pretty fun, and anything like that they add to DMF is nice, because it's always gonna, it's 1 week a month that's available, so we get a lot of mileage out of it. Yeah, overall, the 9.2 announcement was weird for me. I thought 11.5 minutes of a YouTube video was not enough to kind of cover this stuff in depth. It was very heavily focused on story and narrative.
Yeah.
There was, they mentioned what the systems were going to be and what we're actually doing, but they kind of just glossed over the real details. I'm used to this PowerPoint slides with the bulleted lists of like, here's this thing, and this is what it means, and this is what you do, and this is what you get out of it. They didn't do anything like that this time. Ian Hesychosis didn't even appear in the video, so that was a little bit weird for me. The whole thing was just kind of like selling you on the fantasy and the story of this patch, which is fine, but I think like I don't think like that hook is going to get lapsed people into Shadowlands, and I think the people that are hanging in there with Shadowlands are they're not doing it specifically because they can't wait for the next story beat. Like I might be way off on that, but it's not what I'm feeling when I talk to people about it. It's not what I feel as a player. Yeah, I was hoping for a more robust presentation and more kind of nitty gritty about what was going to happen. I was kind of half expecting maybe PTR would drop out of the blue last week. I mean, I think PTR is still probably somewhat imminent, like sooner than later it'll be on PTR for sure. But yeah, it was kind of a very strange announcement to me, because it was almost more like the kind of thing you'd see like well in advance of like an expansion or something, like an expansion announcement where all they have for you is like the elevator pitch, and it's like, here's the story, and this is like the players, and this is why we should care. And it's like, this isn't an expansion, this is a patch. Like, it'll probably be out before way too much longer. You know, the lead time on an expansion announcement is way longer than a patch. So yeah, it was a bit strange, but I mean, like, obviously they have the developers doing a lot of press. You know, more information is going to be coming out. I'm sure we'll see PTR builds soon, and then a lot of these questions will be answered, or you can just log in and play around with them yourself. So maybe that's why they felt it was more important to kind of stick to the narrative and the story pitch. But it was, I mean, I could have watched another 20 minutes of, you know, what's coming up in 9.2 if they wanted to talk to me about it.
Or at least had a single slide with all of the different features highlighted and some breakdowns on some exciting points, like 2 legendaries, for example. Yeah, I would have been fine with that. All right, folks, with that, we're going to play a quick sounder for our patrons, and we'll be right back. Hi, everyone. I'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons. They contribute a ton to our show and help us to improve on the content we create. Today, I'm giving a special shout out to Arajian, Bob, Celian, Jeff, Kapawi, Mibble the Mighty, and Shorel. Thank you. This sounder is for you. Our Patreon is live over at patreon.com/thestartingzone. You can check out all of the episodes that we post there, or you can find them on your iTunes and Spotify and all those other places. But if you support us on our Patreon, we really appreciate it. It means a lot to us. All of our patrons help fun things happen, like this interview with Morgan that we're getting going on Friday. This is all thanks to our patrons who help support our show. And a big shout out to our newest patron, Pasta Matt. Thank you so much for jumping in and supporting the Patreon. I hope you find your way over to our Discord if you haven't already, and we can have some conversations happening there. And yeah, it's great. I love when our patrons reach out to us and support us, and you know, they're there for us. We appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely. Welcome, Pasta Matt. I hope you're enjoying some pasta as you listen to this, and welcome aboard. And thank you, everybody, for your incredible support of the show over the years. And yeah, that support does make it possible for us to do stuff like drop everything and book a relatively last minute interview, and, you know, bring you an extra hour or so of audio out of the blue this month. Like, yeah, that support goes a long way for making that possible. So thank you, everybody, and we'll be in touch with you soon for the November patron episode as well.
Yeah, that's going to be super fun to talk about. We definitely want to place that after this week so that we can actually talk with you about what happened and what announcements have been going on or in and around the game, if you have questions about that. But of course, it's up for anything. If you wanted to just talk about what's happening in your favorite TV show right now, that's fine too. I watch a bunch of TV shows, so maybe we watch something in common. Who knows? Maybe you're excited about all the new Marvel releases that are happening and announced and whatnot. I personally think She-Hulk is going to be a pretty cool show, so I'm looking forward to that a lot. All right, with that, we haven't received any new 5 stars, but 5 stars always help out our show. If you want to leave us a 5-star over on your iTunes, your Apple Podcast, they do help us out a lot. They do raise us up those Apple charts and make sure that more people find our show and see our show, and sort of see our show in a really nice light when we get up into that like top 20, top 10 podcasts. That's pretty sweet. So those 5 stars help get us there. So thank you very much. And we don't have any to read on this show, but it means if you submit one, we will read it on the next episode. So please do submit us those 5 stars. We really love getting them. All right, that wraps up episode 487 of The Starting Zone. If you want to check out show notes for this episode or leave a comment on the show, you can head on over to thestartingzone.com, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. If you want to contact the show and leave us a question or some feedback or email, you can do that over at thestartingzone@gmail.com or on Twitter at thestartingzone or on Discord, which you can find over at thestartingzone.com/Discord. There's a button you can click there that takes you onto our Discord server, and you can join in the conversation there. If you want to get your hands on some TSE gear, you can find that on TeePublic. That's teepublic.com/stores/the starting zone. We got a bunch of shirts and stickers and mugs and masks and all sorts of stuff over there that you can check out. And Jason, where can folks find you on the internet?
Best place to find me, as always, is over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald, always talking whatever I'm getting into in and around WoW and other stuff.
Nice. I am on Twitter as well, at Spencer_Downey, or over on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD. And with that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening, and jobs done.